Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-Kun Episode 3, Violence versus the Prince. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of what happened in the episode. In this episode, it starts with Mikoshiba introducing Sakura to someone that he thinks is very shoujo manga-like, the school's prince, which happens to be a female student named Kashima, who is part of the drama club and as such has no embarrassment about spouting very flirty lines to a large portion of the school's population. And she finds out that at first, Mikoshiba decided that he was going to be her rival, but then she got better grades, was better at sports, and had a larger following, and so he decided to become her friend, and now they're besties. But Kashima, it's revealed, has a habit of skipping her club activities, and she is part of the drama club. And so Hori Senpai, who is an older student that is the leader of the drama club, comes to collect her, and he does so violently, dragging her off to the practice. Then we have Sakura returning to Nozaki. She's doing the beta, but then she notices that on the backgrounds, the beta symbols are different. There's one that's a cute cat, and then another one that's a pair of underwear, and she worries that Nozaki's background person might be like an older woman, and she's, shocked by the competition. And she worries about it the next day, so she asks Sayo which of the two designs she'd do because she thinks a girl would do the cat, a guy maybe the briefs, and she wants to try to narrow it down. But then Sayo says that she would do the briefs because they're easier to draw, and that of course devastates Chio because now she's convinced it's an older woman or a girl who is spending time with Nozaki when she isn't there. But then Kashima comes to the class and asks Chio for a favor to help paint the background sets for the drama club, as unfortunately when she tried to bring some friends to help, they all fought over her because of her cheesy lines and ended up causing more trouble, and so basically were kicked out. Sakura agrees and she starts to help with painting the backgrounds. She finds out that originally Hori was somebody who wanted to be an actor. However, because he is very short, he isn't able to take on the main roles of the lead characters, but if he tries to be in the background, he's so good and talented at acting that he just stands out too much. And so in the end, he ended up becoming like more of the manager of the club and doing like the backgrounds and sourcing the play materials, etc. And Kashima is the one who usually gets the lead as he likes her talent and face. We then have them painting the backgrounds while Kashima is causing a bit of trouble in the background. And this is when Sakura notices that the symbols that he's painting on the backgrounds are the same as the person who does Nozaki's backgrounds, and she discovers that Hori is actually his background person, and she is relieved that it in fact was not a girl, but is Hori, who is more interested in Kashima than anything else. We then fast forward to the evening where Hori leaves a message for her on the manuscript, basically welcoming her to helping Nozaki. And then we continue on with our story where we come to find out that Hori actually chose to do the backgrounds for Nozaki in exchange for scripts that will make Kashima the main lead. However, his scripts have sort of fallen a bit because now that he's actually met Kashima, he's no longer writing a generic prince, but is writing a flirtatious philanderer who is more like the Kashima that is well known in the school. And so basically, he tries to think of it differently and ends up having Hori and Sakura act out one of the scenes of the play. As they're acting out the scene, they get more and more into it, and then Mikoshiba arrives and is watching through the door and is a little bit shocked, unsure what he's seeing, and like wondering, if Sakura is in trouble or like if there's some sort of mess, like what exactly has happened. But then Nozaki approaches him, gives him the role of the maid, and he goes and tries to give those lines, but he's super embarrassed about it. And while Hori is trying to coach him into acting properly, Nozaki ends up defaulting to Mikoshiba being the heroine as is normal for him, because of course Mikoshiba is the inspiration behind Mamiko, his lead in his manga series, and he ends up writing The Prince and the Clumsy Maid instead of his original story. And then we basically after that get a post-credit scene where Nozaki comes to the school to observe a rehearsal for one of his previous plays of Kashima playing the prince in the hopes that watching her act will lead him to be able to better write the character for her, as he hopes that she will be acting differently and give some sort of inspiration. And then we see that he is shocked by her acting, which occurs off screen. It's now time to rank the episode, and we will rank, as always, on our two ranking lists. The mostly objective ranking list first, followed by the personal ranking list. So we'll start with our mostly objective rank values, and I've highlighted those I felt applied to this episode. So first we have our multi-episode main character introductions, and this is introducing Masayuki Hori, who is the background person for Nozaki, as well as the head of the drama club, and then Yu Kashima, who is the drama club star, talent, the prince of the school, and Mikoshiba's best friend. And they are each worth 4 points, bringing us up to 8 points for the episode. However, this episode I did feel had some negative behavior. And really, it was just irresponsible behavior. I mean, obviously, Kashima, she's a bit of because she's an actress, she spouts some cheesy lines that supposedly attract same gender individuals to her and is a big philandering flirt with them, though she definitely seems to really like Hori, as she worries about not being his number one, wants to be invited to his wedding someday, like just seems to absolutely adore Hori. But obviously she flirts around a lot, which it's all in good fun. It's a comedy, so I don't necessarily think that that's too much. Like I was debating on whether I could consider that negative. Like in another characters in other shows, I would consider the behavior poor, but at the same time, I know that it's there for comedic effect in this comedy. However, then we also add in the fact that Hori is very violent when dragging her off to the club activities, and even when she's like messing up all of the backgrounds with all of the girls that are fighting over her. He's like hitting her in the head with like a stick of wood and she's falling into a puddle of blood. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, that is a lot of violence. On the other hand, it's like anime has certain like tropes and things that are common that are specific to anime, and therefore like you don't really take them seriously because you know that they're there kind of like as a slapstick comedy effect as opposed to like actually having a negative implication. But at the same time, I should still call it out at least once, probably won't again. Like, I'm not going to mark it as negative points every time I see it because it's going to be continuous. But I think calling it out once and just pointing out that it is there, it is there for comedic effect, but it also is just negative behavior, just like in general negative behavior. If it was reality, it would be completely taboo, but again, it's not reality. It's there for comedic effect in a comedy anime series. So I debated about whether to take him off, and I decided I'd take him off once, like I said. So with that -2, that brings us, I believe, to 6, though I am not a mathematician, so I'm going to double check on the calculator just in case. And yep, I was right. It's a 6 out of 10 for this episode. And that brings us to the season 1 rankings so far. On our mostly objective ranking, and in first we have This Love, is being turned into a shoujo manga. Second, Say Hello to the New Heroine, and then in third, we have this episode, Violence versus the Prince. So as to my personal opinion of the episode, as always, I enjoy the comedic aspect. I did find it very funny. I especially like at a certain point when she first finds out that Mikoshiba is going to introduce her to the school's prince, who is his friend. She basically puts him into the role of Mamako, who already has a boyfriend, Suzuki, and then she goes running over to Nozaki, all depressed because Makoto is cheating on Suzuki. And, Nozaki also is kind of like put off by, the idea. And then he's like, then when she finds out that they're just friends, she's very relieved, and so is Nozaki. And that always gets me. I like how he starts off as rivals with Kashima, and then after he loses in pretty much every aspect, they then become best friends, and that's how he knows her, which also was really funny because it showed little scenes of him constantly losing grades, sports, girls, etc. So the first part of the series was very fun. There's even a little bit of a scene where Kashima is surprised that Sakura didn't realize she was Hori's favorite. And she talks about like what makes her special. And she's like, he's always coming to get me. And Sakura's like, because you're always skipping. And then she's like, well, he's always casting me as the lead. That's because of your talent. And then she then gets proud because you know what? What is unique to her is that he's always hitting her. And Sakura's like, I don't think that means he likes you best, though. And she gets upset, runs over to Hori, who is talking to Nozaki, most likely about the script, and that he's writing for him, and asks who's cuter, her or Nozaki. And then he says Nozaki. So she runs over to Sakura and is like, and Sakura's like, but I'd also pick Nozaki. And this, of course, devastates Kashima. So there was a few funny moments in the episode. And then there was, of course, the hunt for the background character maker, which Sakura at first feared was a guy, or was a girl, sorry, and then was relieved upon finding it was a guy. But I don't think it was as funny as either of the two previous episodes, and with a comedy series, your value is in your comedic your value's in the comedy, how much you can make somebody laugh and how often you make them laugh. And I felt like for this episode, like I said, it started really funny. There were a couple funny moments throughout, but there was also some parts where it was just like, meh. And for that reason, I'm going to say I agree with our mostly objective ranking, and I'm going to give it a 6, not for the same reasons, but I do think that is a fair score for this episode. And that then brings the season 1 rankings on the personal ranking to Say Hello to the New Heroine. This Love is being turned into a shoujo manga. Violence versus the Prince is this episode, and it comes in third so far. Bringing us to the series ranking so far, and on our mostly objective ranking, Season 1 so far has 25 points out of a possible 120, and on the personal ranking side, we have a score of 23 out of a possible 120. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-Kun Episode 3, Violence versus the Prince. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.